Jai Swaminarayan. Why should I forgive? That's the question that we often ask. Well, first and foremost, forgiveness doesn't mean that you're condoning that what a person did is okay. But forgiveness is for you, not the other person. And forgiveness is about your own feelings and not about the person who hurt you. Forgiveness is focusing on your own thoughts and feelings and not the event that has occurred. And forgiveness is reclaiming control over your own feelings by taking responsibility for how you feel. Forgiveness is seeing yourself as someone who overcame a challenge, victorious, instead of seeing yourself as a victim. And forgiveness is a skill that you can learn and a habit that you can form, just like throwing a frisbee or a basketball. Lastly, every person can learn to forgive. A great modern-day story of forgiveness is the one of Nelson Mandela, imprisoned for 27 years simply for protesting the apartheid. One would expect that anyone in a similar situation would hold a tiny grudge after it was all over, but instead, he said, "As I walked out the door toward the gate that would lead to my freedom, I knew if I didn't leave my bitterness and hatred behind, I'd still be in prison." He also said, "Forgiveness liberates the soul. It removes fear. That's why it's such a powerful weapon." Nishkanan Swami, a Swami of Bhagwan Swaminarayan from 200 years ago, also suffered being wrongly beaten and harassed. He's written in Gujarati, "Kshama sama kada ganihi, jarana sama nahi jap, dhiraj sama dhala nahi, ane mauna sama nahi shap." In other words, there's no weapon as powerful as forgiveness, and no mantra as powerful as tolerance. And then he says, there's no shield as powerful as patience, and no retaliation as powerful as silence. Nelson Mandela and Nishkanan Swami both could have cried about what they went through, but they both chose the high road and chose to tell their own story in a positive light from a perspective of learning. So when we examine our own storytelling, that's what we need to do. Now, I'm not talking about telling a bedtime story to your kids. You should do that, by the way. But what I'm talking about is we need to take notice of how we tell our own stories. And that helps us measure our forgiveness level. How do I narrate the things that have happened to me? Sure, when something bad happens, it might be okay to initially be in shock, denial, and even angry, but for how long do we stay in that mindset? And can we take one step forward after the event? Are you telling your story from a perspective that led you to hatred? Or was it a humbling experience? Do you tell your story and portray the event that led to grieving? Or did you discover gratitude amidst the grief? Do you narrate the challenge that you faced as if you're a victim or a person who remained valiant and is claiming victory? Does your story carry a tone of complaint, or does it carry a tone of courage? Years ago, a devotee sent me a story from a Reader Digest article, a true story about a lady who benefited from learning to forgive. Now, this lady would ride her bike to work every morning. She knew the traffic rules and followed them to a T. She signals properly and would never be in a rush. But one day, when she was biking to work, a driver in a hurry tried to pass her. He knocks her flying and speeds away. He doesn't stop. Now, she's taken to the hospital. She's bedridden for a couple of weeks because she has a concussion and a crushed hip bone. Months later, she recovers, but not completely. So she now suffers from chronic headaches and also needs a cane to walk. The police couldn't find the driver who hit her, and she couldn't go back to work anymore. And her husband had to change jobs to adjust his schedule to help her out, as well as increase the income for the family. He was earning for two now. So the good thing is that she survived the trauma. And she says, I learned to be more compassionate to the pains of others from what I went through. And I was able to make positive changes to my own lifestyle. Instead of complaining, now I'm more grateful that I have such caring and loving family members who helped me through all of this. And she says, my father gave me a little bit of advice that you can't change the past, and you're the only one who can make your future. And then lastly, towards the end of the article, she says, I still don't like the pain, obviously, but I feel I'm a better person for what I've gone through. Now, this is very difficult to also apply to our life. Although she was hurt physically, she was able to become stronger psychologically. It's easy for me to narrate an incident like this, but it's difficult to apply when something like this actually happens to us. In his book titled Forgive for Good, Dr. Fred Luskin gives a nice example. He says, imagine yourself as a police officer assigned to give out speeding tickets. You're standing on the side of the road, holding your ticket book, and your radar shows you everyone's speed. Suddenly, a car zips by, definitely over the speed limit. So you open your ticket book and write up a ticket, but the car is long gone. And you're left holding the ticket yourself. And then suddenly another car races by. You write them a ticket also. But once again, you're the one holding the ticket. Hours go by, and by sunset, you notice you've written many tickets that still need to be handed out. But you are the one holding all of them. You can see how this can seem frustrating. That's why, or this is what it's like when we make up rules in our head and then expect others to follow them. We each have such mental rules for how we think others should talk and walk, dress and dine, and even play and pray. Dr. Luskin calls them unenforceable rules. We think our rules are the correct ones, but no matter how good the rule, there's always a person around to break it. Neither the law, you or me, authority, no one can stop them. And when we see someone breaking our personal rules, we take it personally. We feel it's a personal attack, which results in us feeling hurt or even angry sometimes. So just like that officer writing tickets to speed demons, the more mental tickets we write out to other people, the more helpless and more hurt we'll feel. So we need to calmly consider that other people act according to different rules. Otherwise, the rules we create in our head end up ruling over our feelings. So only after we toss those mental tickets that we've written away do we feel free. Do we free ourselves from the control or from their control over our feelings?
In this two-part series, Pujya Snehmunidas Swami talked to us about the importance and benefits of forgiveness. By embracing forgiveness, we are able to embrace peace, gratitude, and joy. In this episode, we learned why we should forgive, but in the next episode, we will learn how to forgive to arrive at a physical, emotional, and spiritual well-being.